What's a good word, everyone? It's your boy DKB here. I just want to say thanks for all the support. The channel's been steadily growing, and the number you see below, you can drop a text, shoot a voicemail, any ideas, topics, collabs, etc. you guys want to see. I'll include them in future videos and live streams, and I'll catch you again. Be easy. What's a good word, Jets fans? It's your boy DKB here. I'm dropping off another mock draft for you guys. This will officially be my second one in the books for this off season, and really this was a spontaneous one. I wasn't expecting to do another one maybe for another week or so, but I had the itch and I wanted to see how the thought process would change based on a lot of the day 3 guys that I've been looking at. Of course, more knowledge around the day 2 guys. And with that said, there's a couple caveats with this draft class. For one, there's no trades going on for me whatsoever. So I did think about doing one for like the Falcons trade scenarios, for example. Let me know if you guys want to do that on a live with me. We can save that for a different stream. But outside of that, no trades. And the approach with this draft class was to hit positions of need with the best possible player that I think we could have gotten at that point in time. So this wasn't a best player available draft technically, but I was looking at one of the best available players per position for what we needed. So just kind of the thought process, and then final thoughts here. I'm walked away really impressed with this draft class, but I won't say that I am overly excited about it just because I didn't hit on the volume of pass catchers that I was necessarily looking for. But I think I think I nailed what we would want to do from an offensive and defensive perspective for why all of these guys matter, outside of arguably the quarterback position, and we'll talk about it. But let's go ahead and dive into it here. We have, with the 7th overall pick in the first round, LSU tackle Will Campbell. Now, just for reference, Mimbu was already off the board, and so were guys like Mason Graham. In fact, there was even guys like Will Johnson that just snuck in there. And so for me, I think Aaron Glenn doesn't have to say the obvious parts out loud, much like what we heard under Robert Saleh. Trench play is going to be key. He had a foundational offensive line during his tenure with the Detroit Lions that obviously allowed them to pull off all of the little tricks of the trade, if you will, during his tenure at Detroit, but also defensively, right? Even with his secondary background and stuff, you want to be able to control what your opponent can do on both sides of the ball. When it comes to the offensive line, you want to be able to go out there and dominate in terms of a ground game, and then, of course, allow your quarterback the opportunity and time to go out there and pick defenses apart. Or if it's a timing-based offenses, precision passing, play action, etc., etc. With Will Campbell here, I think that we are getting one of the best tackles that we've seen over the last couple years from a technical standpoint. And even though there were questions about his arm length, I believe it came in at 33, which was a little odd because I know there was that discrepancy about his arms coming in at like 32 and an eighth or something during the combine. So somehow his arms grew, or maybe the measurables weren't totally accurate at one of the 2 events. But nonetheless, unless he was just T-Rexing it out there, I would be extremely comfortable with the skill set that Will Campbell has. I mean, over almost 1,500 pass block reps or something like that. Not pass block reps, but over the course of, let's just say, 500 to 800 pass block reps, you're talking about him only giving up 3, maybe 4 sacks. And I love some of what I've seen from him in terms of press conferences as well. This is a guy that is acutely aware of what it means to be a tackle, especially one that survives on an island, not just at the collegiate level, but in the NFL. And, I'm thinking about specifically the press conference over the course of this offseason where he was mentioning, 1 sack a game, if you allow as an offensive lineman, means that you're going to be on the street. Whereas if you're an edge rusher or DT and you get 1 sack a game, right, you're talking about getting a ridiculous record-breaking contract. So from a mentality standpoint, I think he definitely checks the boxes from the championship pedigree, the consistency, the technical refinement in his pass blocking ability. If you took questions about arm length out, right, and I think he satisfies that now with hitting the 33 mark, which is really the minimal threshold, but If you take out question marks about the arm length, I think guys are taking this guy as one of the top 2 tackles in most draft classes 9 out of 10 times, right? So I'm not going to overthink it just because it would be great if he had another inch and a half, wingspan or something of that nature. This is a guy that can survive. And worst case scenario, if he doesn't, this can become your Skoronski, your AVT type guy where you move him on the inside to guard. He becomes a phenomenal all-pro, Pro Bowl type guard player. And then you find a way to get your new tackle of the future while he can also moonlight there. Not even just in emergency situations, but if your guy goes down and he's going to play at a comfortable enough level. I don't really see him being a guy that just gets completely beaten out left, right, and center when he steps on the field. So as the new kind of face of the new era under Aaron Glenn here and Darren Muji, I would be thrilled to see him be the pick here. With our 42nd pick overall in the second round, this was insane to me, but Michigan defensive tackle Kenneth Grant. Now, I actually had the chance to still draft Tyreek Williams here as well, but Kenneth Grant is who I'm going with because he's going to offer that run stopping ability, right? One of the players that I miss the most in the defensive fronts that we've had is someone like Damon Snacks Harrison. He was a phenomenal two-gapping, double team requiring, nose tackle that also had a little bit of pass rush popping. With Kenneth Grant, you're kind of getting that 2.0 version, if you will, Snacks, right? He has the ability to go out there and be in the backfield, not just from a run-stopping standpoint, but he also offers the pass rush tool set and the physical requirements to be a absolute game wrecker. And at Michigan, you know that he was going to be under some of the best coaching in the nation. Obviously got to pair with another great quantity as well in Mason Graham. So you feel good about what it'll mean pairing him up with someone like Quentin Williams that he can learn from. And really, there's not a ton really to say in the negatives about him whatsoever. If it wasn't for him just kind of being more of that nose tackle build, I think you're easily talking about him being a top 15 type pick as well. And when it's all said and done, I honestly do think you could be looking at him as like a top 12 DT or nose tackle that's in the league. And I want to say DT just because nose tackles aren't always separated, right? But I feel like he will be one of the best interior players on the defensive line in the NFL by the time that his rookie contract is up. And I think with Aaron Glenn and probably the multiple fronts they'll be looking at, and again, just the talent that he'll be surrounded around as well, it's going to be hard pressed to see that he doesn't reach the heights that his physical tools and also just what he's produced throughout his collegiate career says that he's capable of doing. So in terms of the trench play and what I mentioned at the beginning of the video, I think this is a killer way to start off the first 2 rounds, even if it's not the most exciting thing. But yeah, Kenneth Grant lasting this long to me would be mind-blowing, and this would be an absolute home run pick in a real-time scenario, in my opinion. Now, with the 73rd pick in round 3, I move to the offensive side again, and we go with Bowling Green tight end Harold Fanning Jr. Mac, offensive player of the year, essentially MVP of that particular conference, if you will. I believe he walks away from the collegiate ranks this year as the #1 leader in receiving yards and potentially receptions. He might be second or third in one of those 2 categories, but this is a guy that Nick Nash is the other name I'm thinking of, wide receiver from San Juan Diego State, something like that. But nonetheless, this is a guy that's dominated his conference, and that's always something that you love to see from one of these players. What I envisioned here was that this was going to be the best pass catcher available between looking at wide receivers, looking at running backs, which I don't think we need, even if it's at an elite skill set, or tight end. this is the guy that offered the best upside, not just as someone that's been a consistent producer and weapon, but also as a guy that would uniquely thrive as kind of that Brock Bowers light, if you will. And there's nothing to say that he can't necessarily have a Brock Bowers type vision, right? You don't necessarily just want to give that out to everybody. So I'm not saying that that's what will happen here, but for a guy that can be that move tight end, a guy that you can split out wide, put into the slot, and really take advantage of poor coverage units in terms of that second layer of defense, Harold is going to be your best friend. He's going to attack seams. He's going to be able to pull off wide receiver like route combinations. He's going to be able to be that threat that needs to be accounted for when he's going to be out there on the field. And I think there's going to be a place for that within this offense. You don't necessarily need the do-it-all type player if you have somebody that kind of has a superpower here. And I think with Harold Fanning is definitely his receiving chops. And one of the things that I really love is he at least brings kind of a decent enough physical, build to the field, right? I want to say he's about 6'3"-ish. I might have saw 6'5", but 240-ish type pounds. So it's not like he's severely lacking, but this isn't a guy that you're going to try to line up next to the tackle consistently and have him do chip blocks and stuff like that. So in terms of moonlighting as a receiving option for us, I think he was the best guy on the board, in somebody that Engstrand and Hayden and Jeff Blasco, they're going to have a field day drawing up passing concepts where he'll help be the focal point to really pull things away as an immediate answer and option within this offense to help out Garrett Wilson. So if you're looking at it, Garrett Wilson would be the top option. I would argue Breece Hall right now, just because Harold Fanning will be a rookie stepping in, will be option number 2 as a guy that can come out of the backfield as well as run a couple routes when he's split out. And then Harold Fanning will be your option number 3. So we'll see how that pans out. But so far, again, really enjoying the first couple picks here that we've made. Now, with the 110th pick in the 4th round, we go defense. And I'm going edge in this specific situation with Miami, Florida edge, Tyler Barron. This is a guy that quietly is pretty impressive. Wins at a pretty solid clip in terms of his pass rush win rate. This is a guy that has just really started to see a ton of opportunity going out there and being able to win his one-on-one matchups, sometimes being able to draw a lot of those double team situations. But as a guy that'll come in and be edge number 3, edge number 4, he has the opportunity to develop into one of the best edge rushers coming out of this draft class. And so this is a guy that I think can fit the rotational role right now in terms of helping out with spelling Will McDonald, spelling Jermaine Johnson, and he may be able to play on both sides of the field as a guy that can work to set the edge, and then as a guy that can go out there and just be that situational pass rusher. But he has the ability and the potential to go out there and develop into a starting caliber player for the New York Jets, depending on who gets contracts, who we move on from, different things like that. So this is really just keeping the stock boards filled, but with a guy that definitely can end up becoming a starter for the New York Jets at some point before his rookie contract is up. In the 5th round, we stay defense here and we go with the 145th overall pick, safety Clemens, from Clemens, RJ Mickens. This is kind of the legacy pick, I'll be honest. I had Malachi Moore, I believe, still on the board, for example, who I would have picked in the first draft. But in this case, RJ Mickens isn't just a legacy pick for the sake of being legacy, right? He is the son of Ray Mickens, so you love the bloodline. Glenn obviously would have, I would imagine, some personal intel, I would say, right? Can easily tap in with the father who would have been grooming him this entire time. Obviously, Clemens is a great program when it comes to being able to develop some of their guys defensively, but he brings a physical ability to be able to play deep. He can play up at the line of scrimmage, where I think is more so where you want him. And just based on some of the issues that we had last year, right? You had Tony Adams, you had Ashton Davis, you had I'm forgetting the other guy that we just had on the board. Basically, the issue that we had on the back end, though, was we didn't really have a true deep fielder, right? And so the issue was you can play Tony Adams back there and he would be our best guy, but then you also didn't have a guy that was exceptionally good at the line of scrimmage, being able to come and bear down on running backs and really pick up and pick off anything that's happening near the line of scrimmage. RJ Mickens offers that ability, and I love the fact that with like DBs and stuff on occasion, I love guys that actually have been in school for 3, 4, 5 years in some cases. The more reps, the better, right? So you're talking about a guy that's coming in a little bit more experienced, obviously has the NFL bloodline and pedigree, but that also means you're getting a consummate professional right out of the gate, and this is a guy that could end up working out to be a starter for you by year 3, in my opinion. So this isn't the guy that's going to have pressure to get out there right away. But when you talk about that bump, right, on the offensive side, the bump I believe is in the tight end room. On the defensive side, I think it's anything that happens in the secondary where you have Steve Wilkes, Aaron Glenn, both guys are specialized at DB. You have Drew Bly, I think it was, as well, helping out on the back end there. So this is a guy that I feel extremely comfortable with being able to reach whatever his ceiling happens to be pretty quickly, but this could just be your long-term safety answer, kind of like Ashton Davis that lasts throughout the duration of his rookie contract and then probably signs, a modest type deal therefore after if he doesn't break out in whatever capacity that ends up looking like. Now, with our other 5th round pick, 162nd overall in the 5th round, Notre Dame quarterback Riley Leonard goes here. Now, I was seriously considering maybe looking at wide receiver once again. There wasn't anybody that I felt extremely comfortable with, and that'll be the case with the remaining picks here as well, which is why I felt a little bit underwhelmed by this draft, because that means that we walk away with just one pass catcher here, and I assume we'll kind of fill in with either some last minute trades, free agent pickups, something like that, UDFAs of course. But Riley Leonard is a guy that really intrigues me. 6'3", I want to say just shy of 220-ish pounds. He's a guy that's been a threat on the ground, right? More than 15 touchdowns on the ground, has the arm ability that you really don't question whatsoever, has a toughness. The potential meter lets you know from way early in the offseason where he was expected to be a first-round draft pick. Not that he was a top 3 selection or anything, but first round is first round. It lets you know just kind of what the evals early on for him looked like. And he didn't necessarily lived up to it, but I think as the season progressed, you've seen a guy that got a little bit more understanding of how to play with a little bit more touch using his arm strength, was able to go out there and from a mental standpoint decide where he was going to go, run through his progressions a little bit more smoothly, obviously utilize his legs a lot. And this is really what made me lean towards him, because with Justin Fields, if it works out, great. He gets another pretty sizable contract at some point next year, I would imagine, to stay on long term for the Jets. But if he ends up just being okay, maybe he gets us to 6 or 7 wins, which would kind of be the minimum threshold I imagine we look at for Aaron Glenn. But you don't overly want to buy into it, and you still get that second year out of him as well. Riley Leonard is a guy that can come in. He'll be able to develop for a full year. No pressure to start whatsoever after he'll be sitting behind Tyrod Taylor as well. And this is a guy that could progress into a quarterback of the future. I don't want to say a franchise type, but he has the physical tools that you would love to see that you can build around and that you can go out there and feel strongly about. So this feels like a strong value pick, in my opinion, and a guy that will fit in with the scheme that we want to use. Not that he's the same athlete as Justin Fields, but he'll be able to go out there and make his impact on the ground be felt, while also being able to pull off some throws that maybe someone like Justin Fields, who has an above average arm, but it's not quite close to that elite tier like maybe Riley Leonard would be. So I feel pretty comfortable about this being a strong pick that will make some pretty effective quarterback competitions as you mold selecting somebody in that 2026 2026 draft and having a pretty competitive room at that point when you talk about Justin Fields and whatever he ends up looking like, Riley Leonard, and then a combination of maybe giving Tyrod Taylor another look or just adding in one of those premier quarterbacks from the 2026 draft. With our 186th overall pick in the 6th round, Holland Pierce. I'm a Rutgers guy through and through. I'm from Jersey, so normally I pay attention to a lot of these guys. And this is a guy that not only has a pretty awesome story about losing a ton of weight, he's a massive human. 6'8", he's about 340-ish pounds. This is a guy that you can still see losing maybe 20, 25-ish more to get into a little bit more of a comfortable range. And I don't even like picking these guys, right? It gives me shades of Mekhi Becton and some of these guys that have issues with that, but he did something in college that Becton couldn't, which is lose a significant amount of weight. 2, he's played at a pretty solid level, right? So with Holland Pierce, he's going to bring the size. He's definitely bringing the physicality. This is a guy that's going to go out there and he's destroying the first and second levels of defense, right? He's going to be a much better run blocker than pass protector out of the gate. But as he continues to lose some of this weight, as he continues to work with an NFL coaching program, this is a guy that could end up paying off dividends. And he gives me shades of, there's a Lions tackle right now that they've had on their roster. Massive guy too. I think he's like 6'9", something like that. And I think he's 340s as well. Ben Skiller, I think, is the name that I'm thinking off the top of my head, but he's played like 50-something games for him. So this is kind of the backup option, right? This is if Will Campbell doesn't pan out, you have another guy that you're developing in the wings as well that you can feel really good about, at least having a key trait, a key role for himself out of the gate. And if he develops into a key swing tackle, great. If he becomes a starter as well, awesome. But this gives you 2 pretty significant options to be able to work and build around that you feel really good at while you think about the future state of this offensive line. And then with our final pick in the 6th round, 207 overall, Georgia Tech tight end Jackson Hawes. I had to get him in. I put you guys on, at least anybody that's checked out the video for him, the best blocking tight end in college for this draft. Insane numbers. This is a guy that blocks at a great clip. I would have loved to have paired him with like an Alec Iomaner, for example, who I just missed out on in the 3rd round, which is why we went with Harold Fanning Jr. But Jackson Hawes is going to fit that other quality that the Jets are going to look for as a guy that I think has some upside as a receiver, but you're specifically bringing him on for his blocking ability. And yeah, you might not want to telegraph stuff and bring him on the field, may mean that, even though I think he could have like that 1 or 2, maybe 3 standout games over the course of the season where he just capitalizes on all the opportunities that comes his way because people are thinking he's only going out there to block. But this is about the running game. So you have Harold Fanning Jr. who's going to be able to help out, and maybe you end up splitting him wide when you do run your 12 personnel. But nonetheless, this is a guy that's going to give Breece Hall a absolute field day rushing out there on the ground. He's going to bury guys in the pass and run game, and I would be thrilled to see him continue to develop as a receiver. And maybe he becomes somebody that's never spectacular, but maybe he consistently gives you games where he's giving you, 3 catches for 35 yards, and maybe here and there gives you a touchdown. But for the most part, you see him springing Breece Hall, you see him springing Braylon Allen and Isaiah Davis left and right. Justin Fields is going to love to run behind him as well. So I think this rounds out offensively the physicality as well as the commitment to the ground game that we're going to look for, while also still being able to bet on somebody's upside where from an efficiency standpoint in the passing game, he looks really good as well. So let me know what you guys think about my draft class. Where do you think some of the priorities need to change here? And what kind of grade would you give me? I would probably say I'll give this an objective, maybe B. I think solid B, maybe a B minus, just again because there's not a ton of potential per se here from a pass catching standpoint, and we're going to need some of that to help out Justin Fields. But I think that this hits the marks for a lot of other things that we want to do here. So let me know what you guys think, and I'll catch you again. Peace. Peace.